When you got a chance, ain't cost, ain't cash, ain't parse, ain't me. Would you please call?
Welcome to Fitted Corner Chats. This is our first episode. Really, the purpose of this is to just highlight creatives and artists around the Seattle area who are coming from just different, unique perspectives. And so today we're going to be starting off with Oblé Reed. Oblé is a hip-hop artist from the Seattle area. And more than just hip-hop, he's an artist in general. He's into clothing, he's into cinematography, a lot of different things. So Oblé, if you want to just give a brief introduction of yourself, go ahead.
What's up, y'all? I'm Oblé Reed, 23, just turned 23. I'm out here making alternative rap, representing Seattle, representing Linden Ave, and everything's for the city, and I'm just glad that y'all invited me here. Yeah, it's an honor.
So the way I found you, I guess, just to start off, I just found you just randomly scrolling through Spotify, and I wasn't expecting you to be from Seattle, which is one thing that was like really piqued my interest in like my desire to talk to you and to understand your artistic process. And then overall, it just felt like you had a really cohesive vision as an artist. And so I just want to start off with an open-ended question and then just let the conversation go wherever we want. Yeah. But why do you create? Like,
I think that ultimately it's to be heard and to be understood, I think that growing up, which is like, I think a lot of artists say it, right? It's like they felt like nobody really understood, or it's hard to talk about certain things, and music becomes an outlet for emotions. And I mean, I've been writing since I was like 10, or those like big line pieces of paper that like little kids practice handwriting on? Yeah. I got like the first rap I ever wrote, I got it framed up in my room on that like handwriting paper. And so like since a young kid, I was drawn towards just creating and putting something, feel like I'm contributing something to the world, right? And building legacy. And so, I mean, now it's just me finding my people, and like to hear that, oh, you scrolled through Spotify and found me, and then I happen to be from your city, and then you wanted to have this conversation, like that means like you're my people, and like that's all I could ever ask for, right? And yeah, I mean, that's just what we're doing, dog.
Yeah, no, I mean, the way I think of creativity is a lot of the times you're channeling like your experience of life.
Yeah.
Because everyone's experience is different. My experience is different from your experience. And so I want to know, was that like a conscious shift? Because you say you've been writing for a while, but I feel like the concept of channeling like your life and putting it into a creative piece is something that like, I don't know if that's possible, like when you're 8 or 9 or 10. Like, sure, you're still creative. But
yeah.
What was that shift like for you where you realized that, okay, this is something that I could put I could share my voice out? Like, what did that process look like?
Wow. That's like the moment that I knew that this is what I wanted to do type thing.
Yeah. So like what age about? Or like what was going on in your life? Like what led you to it?
Yeah, so, I mean, I was introduced to hip hop when I was like 12 or 13, and it was Christian rap. That's all I listened to until I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
Nothing else. And I was like, nah, this is kind of dope. And like it caused me to like want to refine my pen and all that. But then the first time I ever rapped in front of anybody was at church camp. In front of the camp, I rapped. It was low-key terrible. I messed up so much, but then I went back and my counselor was like, oh, we got to give you a rap name.
Really?
And I was like, okay. And he said, Moondrop.
Right.
And up to that point, I hadn't had a name. This name sucks, and I hate talking about it, but like that was when it became real. Like, okay, this is something that I could do. And I ran with that name until November of 2022. And I mean, it just, at that camp, somebody who owned a studio was there, saw me rap, was like, oh, you gotta come to the studio and like record something. That person taught me everything there is to know or about like being in the studio, mic etiquette, like all of that. And when you really start to dive into what it means to do music for real, like even in just the creation process, like outside all of the business, like taking it seriously and taking your craft seriously. I put out my first song when I was a senior in high school. So 2019, 2018,
Which
2019.
track was that?
Bro, you ain't heard it.
Really?
It's only on SoundCloud.
I might have. I was going through your old SoundCloud stuff too.
You seen the one that has like I think I might have taken it down. It got an astronaut on it. You seen that?
I think I started with Loose Change. The one
Okay.
that was on
See,
the
there we go. You can start.
Okay,
That's
so
a
before
good.
that?
That's a good.
Okay,
Yeah, it was way
okay,
before
okay,
that.
Okay.
But like that's where it started, and releasing music in high school is like a weird thing because you gotta like kind of own it, but also you're still like finding yourself. So then you're like denying, like, oh, I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
But like in my heart, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Right.
But yeah, from that point forward, I just really took it seriously, and just kept it pushing, and now we're here, dog. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I want to touch back on Moondrop because that
gosh.
was something that even I didn't know. So
Yeah.
I was going through your Instagram and I see comments and it says like @MoonXDrop. And they're like tagging this random account. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then I do more research and it's like, okay, his old name was Moondrop. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's an interesting. But then I just also saw, I think you were on tour somewhere and you were basically telling them that, okay, this is like your first time touring or performing as Oblé Reed.
Yeah.
So what was that process like? And you say that you don't like talking about it, or like you don't like what is that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like talking about it because, like, what do I have to do with space at all, bro? Like, but that process of changing my name is, I worked with my manager, Riker. She found me when I was an engineer at a studio, and we were running open sessions. And she brought to the table, she's like, oh, we should change your name. And I was like, bro, I've been thinking about that for mad long because I hate Moondrop and it's embarrassing. Why does everybody know me as Moon?
Yeah.
And I always preach authenticity and talk about being yourself and taking care of yourself, self-care, all that. And so for me to go under a name that felt like a character, it didn't sit right, you know? And so, I mean, Oblé Reed is my government name. So for me to be able to just go as my birth name and have my art represent me truly, it was like the whole reason that we did that. And it was crazy. I didn't know how it would be received. I mean, I didn't think anybody would know how to pronounce it at first, so I made a whole video on this is how you say it, and then everybody still didn't get it, and I was like, that's all right, they'll catch on. But yeah, I mean, we just transitioned, we did a whole rollout with the name, and then, doing Linden Ave and representing Seattle and my home where I grew up. Like, the whole thing was so intentional on introducing me to the world. And I always talk about how Linden Ave is a collection of my experiences that led me to the beginning of my journey. Like, when I dropped that project, I was like, now y'all know who I am. Yeah. So now let's really do it, So.
And even when I listened to that project in totality, it's rare that you see from an artist in their first EP that each track is filled with like a lot of intent and there's a lot of craft. And I think you said that you had the whole album produced basically 2 years before you actually dropped it. Was that correct? Yeah, like what is that process like? Like why wait 2 years? Why are you so intentional with your craft? Is it feeling based? Is it intuitive based? Or is it more of like, management wise, I want to wait 2 years just because like marketing and distribution? Like what goes into the different decisions you make as an artist and why?
I mean, I was in no rush, right? Like, if I want to share this art with the world and I took 3 years to make this project, why would I rush it and put it out and, spend little to no time thinking about how I want to reach my audience? And my music isn't built off trends. It's not built off something that's temporary. Like, my goal is to make timeless music. So it doesn't matter when I put it out, right? And I took an entire year building out everything that I wanted to do with Linden Ave, the rollout. I have like a 60-page presentation that I made that has everything from the music to the videos to what I wanted to wear, what I wanted my hair to look like, how I wanted to incorporate running into my brand, how I wanted to do everything so that when it came time for me to drop that first track in January of 2023, I wasn't playing catch up on everything because I had the next 12, 18 months planned out.
Yes.
And I mean, that brings peace to my soul. Like, I never want to feel like this, like, putting out my art is what's stressing me out. Like, sharing my art should be a release and it should be a celebration. And, when artists don't take that time to really craft a rollout, then it starts to feel like catch up and they're stressed and then they're like, dang, this whole process sucks. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that's, or let me put it a different way. So one thing that you said was timeless. The goal is to create timeless art and music. And that's something that really intrigues me because even like past couple months, I've just been thinking about, okay, what does it mean to create something timeless? First off, where does that come from? And then second, how do you transcend time? Because a lot of times there's going to be different genres or different trends, you know, in hip hop and rap or pop, just different things that are the way of which you're supposed to create.
Yeah.
But timeless is something that I think a lot of great artists do.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what art should be for, is to create timeless pieces of art that are there as their own standalone project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's your interpretation of timeless? Like, why bring that up in a sentence? Why is that your goal?
Because my art is so intertwined with my life that it's me. And I will be me till the end of time. So it doesn't matter if the music comes out right now or if it comes out in 10 years, because it's still me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, my genre of music, like the alternative hip hop type of genre, is like, it's free flowing. Like, if you listen to all of the tracks, it's cohesive sonically, but like, Hometown Hero don't sound like Skincare, which doesn't sound like BFGF.
Right.
But what brings it all together is me, and each part being a different aspect of my life. And I'll forever create music like that, and so it'll forever be timeless. And yeah, I mean, authenticity is the most important thing as an artist.
Yeah, how do you achieve authenticity, or like what practices? Because authenticity is something that a lot of artists are gonna say, okay, I'm authentic, but when you look at the pieces that they release, it's clear that there's different directions that they're taking towards, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So I want to hear, I guess, what are like some battles or what are some like hurdles that you've had to overcome in achieving true authenticity? Because to put out great art is authentic art, but to put out authentic art is extremely, extremely hard.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I had to teach myself was to not judge ideas before I release them from my brain, before I go to execute them. So it's like if I'm writing and I'm like, oh, I want to write this, but then I'm like, but is it good? And I haven't even written it down. I haven't even tried to see what it sounds like on the mic. Then it's like, who knows what that idea could have turned into, because you killed it before it could even, you know, come to fruition. Right. And that's one thing that I've been working on, especially post Linden Ave, because of the way that the project performed. I feel there's pressure on me for this next batch of music that wasn't on me for Linden Ave. And I find myself, there was like a solid, like, all of the singles, like Downsize was recorded before Linden Ave came out. Push 'Em I made off like a whim, but like most of the music was recorded prior to Linden Ave. But then after that, now I'm writing under this pressure, and I'm thinking like, just that comparing, you know? Like comparing it, I'm like, dang, is it as good?
Right.
Like, oh, Hometown Hero sounded like this and people liked it, so do I gotta make more music like that? And now every idea that I'm having is getting compared and judged, and then I'm like, nah, that's not gonna work. Rather than, you know, creating to create, and then when I have a final product, being like, does this fit or not? Not does it feel like me, not other people gonna like it, but does it fit in the overall, like, is this the time for it? And I mean, it comes back to the timeless music, right? Like I have tracks that I created 2 years ago that I plan on releasing because, you know, now it's their time. And
the way you sort of break it down was, so sometimes you'll have an idea and then you have more ideas that overcrowd it and you're like, okay, maybe this isn't as good.
Yeah.
So for me, that initial seed is more of like a feeling.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff is like more logical, rational thought. So do you think like feeling is ultimately just like what guides your creation process? Do you think it's about like, I don't know, it's hard to like explain and put it into like words for people who aren't as in touch with their artistic side.
Yeah.
Because I believe everyone's an artist, like truly deep down, but it's hard for people to understand like that feeling versus the logical creation.
Yeah.
So how do you understand your feeling at that, like the truest essence of your being?
That's a crazy
Like,
question.
I feel like that's what it means to create art. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just that seed that's within you, and it's like, how do you bring it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because I see like you're big on nature, you're big on like different like physical practices. So whether it's going for runs, is that stuff that helps your feeling? Is it like, are you spiritual? Is it like, where does that feeling come from? And how do you nurture it? How do you like plant the seed?
just not forcing anything.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I don't know. I find that when I live more life, I have more art to create and more ideas to produce. And it's like, if I was in the studio every single day and all I was doing was making music, what am I writing music about, you know? Because I'm not doing anything else besides being in there. And I think that my number is 222. I got it on my chain, but it represents balance, harmony, and alignment. And finding that balance between, you know, creation and consumption. And when I say consumption, I mean just like taking in the experience of life. Because art is just one aspect of my life, but there's so much more to everything else. So if I were to only focus on this one part, I'm missing out on everything else that this journey has to offer. And then it gets so isolated from everything else that now it's not authentic, right? It just is a representation of itself. So yeah, man, I think it just comes down to just living. And the universe will bring those ideas to you because everything, I don't know, everything is meant to be and everything moves on divine timing.
You believe that?
I do.
Have you always believed that, or is that something that you sort of learned with time, of like just going through life and going through the ups and downs? And
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when the Pharrell thing happened, I felt like the clock was ticking, and I was like, okay. I was like, now I got this moment, right? I got these eyes on me. So I put out like 2 singles in like a month.
Oh, okay. So you felt the pressure. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now my mental health is trash. I'm not focused on nothing else except for the numbers. I literally had to take like 6 months off of creating as a whole. I didn't go on social media. I wasn't in the studio. I wasn't doing anything. I was just living life and finding my own balance within myself as a person before I try to put anything else out into the world. It's like the airplane thing, dog. Like when the oxygen masks come down and they say you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people.
Right.
And so, I mean, it just comes back to that ideology, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to touch on sort of the ups and downs that we mentioned. So the downs, I think, as a creative person or as like someone who is creating art, can be really aggressive, and like the doubts and like the internal voices that you have, and a lot of times they can't be logically justified.
Yeah.
And so you talk a lot about this in Hometown Hero, but you mentioned the pressures and how you got dreams that are bigger than selling out. And sort of the essence that I got from that track was like, you as an artist, you're vulnerable. Like you deal with your own doubts, you deal with your own pressures, but at the end of the day, you're just gonna keep on like pushing through. And I feel like that's something that's really hard to cultivate too. Yeah, what's your process of like dealing with doubt, and you know, how do you interact with it? Because it's such a strong like mind bender. Because when you indulge too much in doubt, like your creative process is tapped out. And you mentioned like with the Pharrell thing, it's just, it completely disrupts your way of living. So I mean, I know for me, like doubt is, you're facing it every day, but it's like in this weird realm where you don't even know that it's there. It's like a shadow, and you're like, oh, like it's just such a like a mind bender.
But no, it really is.
How do you incorporate that? How do you interact with it?
Surrounding myself with inspiring people helps me every day, because sometimes things feel so out of reach and so unattainable. But when I look to the homie that I see every day, or the homie that I grew up with, pursuing his passion, because right now he's in his moment, feeling doubt-free, it reminds me that, oh, this is all possible. I'm just in my head, you know? And it's that imposter syndrome, dog.
Yeah.
That's what it is, because we know, and I'm like, I know, and I'm sure you know also where you want to be, and that you're going to get there no matter what. Yeah. It's just waiting for time to catch up. But then you have those moments where it's like, dang, but is it though?
Right.
It's
always that like that second like little shift. It's like, am I the one who's delusional?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the truth is you are, but that's the reason that it's gonna happen.
Exactly.
And having other people that are just as delusional as you are, but also grounded in actually taking steps, like not just dreamers, but like people building blueprints and floor plans of how they're gonna make it happen. That's what inspires me, and I built a team around me, and I have homies around me that, you know, my DJ was the homie from high school, just my best friend. And, you know, now we're touring together, and now he does modeling. And so when I'm having doubts in my thing, I'm like, bro, we was just in social studies, and now bro doing all these shoots and stuff, and I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah.
You know? And like, I mean, like, we look around at all y'all like, this is beautiful. This is what it is, it's community. Yeah. And when you continue to invest in community, community invests in you. And those doubts, they'll get washed away, you know?
100%. No, I agree. And I think for the longest time, delusion was something I tried to stay away from, was because, you know, you go to school and then, like, I don't want to say that I was put into a box or stuff like that, but school sort of teaches you this one-dimensional, like, way of progressing towards things. And then they tell you, like, oh, don't be like delusional, like stick to your career path, or figure out, like, goal setting. Like there's the 4 elements to goals, and I'm forgetting the other 3, but one of them is make sure it's rational. I'm like, what does rational mean? Like, because something that I'm starting to realize over the last couple months is delusion's like one of the ultimate superpowers. And it seems like
that's crazy.
Yeah, it seems like you're someone who's really tapping into that. Not calling you like delusional in a bad way.
Yeah, you're like, you're kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, like delusional in like the Kanye way. Like you gotta believe in yourself more than you want to, because a lot of times you don't want to believe in yourself. But if you can just harness delusion, it's like the ultimate superpower. So is that also a realization that you came to, or was that just something that when you were surrounded amongst other people who were believing in themselves so strongly, was it like you also started to pick up on that?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think that I came to that on my own, and like just to give a little background. We were talking a little bit earlier, but like school was that was my thing. Like I graduated with 4.99 weighted GPA. I got into Stanford, USC, Pomona, all these schools. I missed one question on my SAT. Like, that was my life. And I ended up not having enough money to go to any of those schools, so I ended up running track on full scholarship at SPU, and it didn't feel right. But in that moment, I was sitting up in my dorm, and this is when I was about to move back, because they had just told us COVID was shutting down everything. Everybody got to go home. And I was sitting there, and it's like, I already proved to myself that I could do this stuff. I proved to everybody else that I'm not just going to pursue my creative passion because I couldn't do this. You know? And once I got past the what is everybody else gonna think about what I'm doing, then like, and really just sit in that delusion, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's when I got back to the crib. I had a tree house that I built with my dad when I was 10. We gutted the thing out. I put insulation, I put Wi-Fi, electricity. I built a studio in there, taught myself how to audio engineer, because I told myself next year when the studios open up, next year is crazy because COVID lasted mad long. But I was like, when the studios open up, I want to work as an audio engineer. I made that happen. Then I worked as an audio engineer, and I was like, I want to build my team. So then talked to the owner. We started running open sessions every Friday. Any artist can pull up, record for free. Any creative can pull up. We have videographers, we have clothing brands. We had everybody would pull up, and I was like, I just started hand-picking people. I was like, oh, this person's nice. This person's nice. And I found my people But I wouldn't have done that if I was focused on being rational, like you said. And while I think it is important to think logically about the goals that you're setting, logically doesn't necessarily mean, in the scope of what everybody else thinks. It's like, what do you truly feel that you can accomplish? And then don't put limits on that based on everybody else's experience or perception. Because truly, you speak everything into reality. I always tell myself, always tell my team that I'm a child of the universe and that everything I speak becomes reality. And sometimes I don't feel like that, but I continually say it because, it's manifestation. And just everything that happened last year and me talking about all of 2022, what I wanted to have happen. This is what's gonna happen. This is what we're gonna do. And then going through it and meeting the universe halfway and actually doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, you literally cannot fail, bro.
I love the fact that you mentioned meeting the universe halfway, because the way I always turn on to manifestation and positive affirmation and a lot of the modern spiritual, I was like, oh, that's just woo. My older sister, she tried to put me onto it, and I'm like, you are delusional. That's not gonna work, because I always had this vision that it's, you start at 0 and then you do these acts and then you get to 100, but really it's meeting it halfway. And it's those words that are giving you the bump to get there.
Exactly.
Because you're your ultimate motivation, and it's just, if you can give yourself any sorts of bumps, a little encouragement, little juice and energy, and then like you said, you start surrounding yourself with people who are also on that wavelength. It's just it's infectious. There's just no beating that. And I think you're just a perfect culmination of all of that, which is why you were just so enticing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
I want to get a little bit more into let's see. Yeah, dreaming. Were you always a dreamer?
Oh, always.
Really?
Always, man.
And so even in the height of school, fully tapped in, you always knew that you had something, a greater dream to pursue.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in school, I wanted to be an epidemiologist from when I was an 8th grader, which is a nerdy ass fucking, damn, I cuss for real, that's crazy. No, it's it was just something that I picked, and I was like, Doug, this would be crazy. Travel the world, do statistics on diseases, and that goal and that dream is what helped me get through everything else. And I mean, I don't know. I think that truly anything is possible, and I don't rely on my own experience and the things that I've seen as a scope of what you can actually do, because it's I'm just me. I grew up in North Seattle. I'm surrounded by other people that a majority of people who just want to take the path of what people tell them is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. And
so if I were to just rely on my vision, I'm nobody actually, makes it out of here. Everybody just kind of does what they do, and that's for the big people. And who knows if they're actually real,
Yeah.
But
and was taking that first step scary?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, anytime, first step, I've had multiple first steps, but the first step of actually creating something and hearing your own voice back is literally the worst thing ever. It was so hard for me to listen to anything that I made for the first 4 months of me making music, because I'm dang, my voice kind of sucks. And I mean, it's I don't know, watching yourself back on videos or performance and anything.
Yeah.
But so that was a first of being comfortable with myself and my own voice, and then putting it out to the world. That's another first step, and that one's even crazier, because I'm at first I didn't even like it. So are they, how are they gonna feel about it? And I mean, it's always gonna be scary, but yeah, I don't think fear goes away. Every time before I go on stage, whether it's 30 people out in a crowd or 2,000, it's always scary because it's vulnerable. But that's what makes it worth it, because you are scared at first and then you do it and you're it wasn't that bad. I would do that again. despite all of that anxiety, despite me pacing around in the green room and not being able to eat for the day, I'd do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And do you feel like you're getting more equipped at getting over your fear?
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel like the fears that you're encountering on like a linear basis, so like let's say tomorrow, like you're scared of like something, do you feel like overall it's like higher amounts of fear? Or do you think it's just you're getting better at climbing that same hill?
Yeah, I think it's better at managing like my emotions. I think is what it comes down to. Like the situations, most of the situations, especially this year, is like stuff I've never experienced ever. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, performing is one thing. Like I've performed a bunch of times, right? But the crowd might get bigger, but I know it's like, oh, I know how to perform. But it's like, when you're meeting one of the biggest people in the industry and you're sitting down and trying to explain your artistic vision to them, like, I've never done that before. Like, and so then that's a different fear, but I've already taken the time to understand my emotions, how I deal with them, that it's like, it's all the same. It's all the same anxiety, and it's just figuring out different ways to, I don't know if cope is the right word, but just manage it.
Yeah, manage I think is a great word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to touch more on, you mentioned like growing up in Seattle, Linden Ave, the whole project is
Yes, sir.
tying homage to you as like a geographical location, like where you're growing up, and then also your entire process. And so going back to that initial surprise I had when I found out that you're from Seattle.
Yeah.
Because me and my homies, like we always joke, we're like, if Seattle's best, like, this is no diss to Macklemore or anything, but if Seattle's like best creation is Macklemore, like Seattle got to do more like to get on the map. And so like, what is that like for you? Because you mentioned that you have a lot of ties to, or not ties, but a lot of influence from St. Louis rap. So Smino, Saba, Jordan Ward, that type. But when you're coming from Seattle, it's like you don't have a lot of people that you can work with or that you can sort of like look up to as role models and mentors. So like, what was that process like as coming up in Seattle?
I think it was beautiful, bro. It's like you have no box that you're trying to fit in.
Yeah.
At all. So it's like the people that make it out of Seattle just happen to be lucky. Mm-hmm. Like there's no formula out here where you see in Atlanta, it's like you make a song, you tap in with the DJ, they play it at the club, everybody rocks with it. Okay, now the big artists are like, okay, Lil Homie is doing it. Like there's formulas to cities with infrastructure. But Seattle doesn't have that. So it's like create what you want and it might just work, right? And like just continue to push it. And my goal is to build an infrastructure out here where there is not a formula, but a pipeline and networking that people can do that they feel like is worth it. Because right now, like my manager runs a networking night and a lot of people don't want to pull up because they're like, who's in Seattle that I can meet? That's gonna do anything for my career, right? And I hate that idea, but I also understand it because we haven't seen really anything truly like go the distance, especially from, you know, people that look like, you know what I'm saying? No, so, I mean, my goal is to continue to build a blueprint. Like that's what we said when we did Linden Ave. It's like, we are gonna build a blueprint that said we don't gotta follow none of the trends. We don't have to follow just pump out single route. We did long form content for everything and then broke it down into short form. And we created what we wanted to and figured out where it fit rather than trying to create to fit in. And I mean, that's just the Seattle way, man.
Yeah. No, and I like that you tapped into the fact that Seattle doesn't have that existing infrastructure that like say Atlanta or like Detroit might have, because that's something that I don't really consider as someone who's not as tapped into like the music industry.
Yeah.
But I think in a way, yeah, it's freeing because it allows you to, I'm sure there's a lot of great artists who are in Atlanta who are just lost in that like crazy mud and like, whatever's going on in your way to climb up the ranks. But it's like, yeah, it's really freeing to be from Seattle, which is good. Yeah.
You go to a lot of like local shows or anything? Not even shows in general. Do you go to like a lot of like local creative events?
Not as much as I'd like to. I
Yeah.
definitely want to more often. I feel like, yeah. Do you have any recommendations or like, yeah? What's your like advice for any creatives coming up?
Go outside.
Go outside.
Literally go outside because you never know who knows who. You never know what's gonna happen at any of these events. Like I spent all of 2022. You were asking me why I took so long to put out the project.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't know anybody and nobody knew who I was. Right. I spent the whole year just introducing and being a fan of other people. Being like, dang, hi, my name's Moon at the time. Hey, my name's Moon. I love what you're doing and everything that you represent. I'm sending nothing but positive energy your way. Genuine connection. Like, I'm just like what you're doing. I'm not asking nothing of you. Mm-hmm. I'm just showing love. And then by the time that's my turn, people remember that. People remember your face. People remember that connection that you had off of just showing love and being outside. And we have so many internet warriors that just want to post TikToks. Why nobody like my TikTok? Why nobody like my Instagram Reels? Because nobody knows who you are and you haven't given us a reason to care at all. No. Like, you just in it for yourself and it's all transactional.
I feel that. Because I feel like, okay, when the internet first came out, part of the new marketing wave was, okay, you go out to the internet, you post about yourself. And it worked. But now it's just so oversaturated and people are like, oh, here's the exact 3 seconds, and then the next 5 seconds, and then the next 3 seconds of how to make your TikTok go viral. Yeah. But it's just so oversaturated, and people are, like, I'm sounding like a boomer right now, but it literally just sounds like,
that's funny.
Like, people are losing touch with the human connection and the genuineness of connecting with people, which is part of also why we wanted to host this, was to show not only ourselves, but everyone else. Because, I think everyone's a creative and everyone's an artist. And I feel like there's so many kids at UW and students who they have dreams, but they're not as like invested into them as they could be. And my whole thing is, okay, how do we bring the dreamers back? How do we like instill the next like? I think it's like a creative revolution because I just feel like I look around me, I sit in class, I go to school, I go to whatever the process is supposed to be. Yeah. And everywhere I look around me and I'm just like, wow, there's just, for lack of a better word, and not trying to sound woke or anything, but it's just not that many people have dreams anymore, which I think is a big issue that we need to tackle as like a society and just as a group in general. So.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to like, what y'all are doing is you didn't see something happening, so you did it yourself. You wanted something to be there, and it wasn't, so y'all did it. Yeah. Which is gonna inspire other people to just, they see something or they want something so bad that they'll just do it themselves, right? They're not waiting for nobody else to make it happen. Their team make it happen. And I mean, yeah, you're talking about bringing the dreamers back. That'll do it every time. No. That'll do it every time, because we were just talking about Seattle. Like, there's such a lack of community and culture. Like, it's just a bunch of tech bros coming in, being like, let's raise the price of everything in Microsoft, Amazon. I'm gonna type on my computer. Like, it's cool, and it's beautiful to see eyes turn into Seattle in that sense, and seeing like the city just go up. Yeah. But at the same time, like, those people don't care about the culture. They're here for a check, and they're here to do, you know, their own thing. And so it's our responsibility to carry that torch and continue to build and invest in something bigger than just ourselves. And, you know, while sometimes we feel super small in the scheme of everything, somebody is watching you and being inspired at all times. At all times. Like, people trip over, oh, I got 10 likes on something. That is 10 people that went out of their way and were like, yo, this is dope. Yeah. Like, if we had 10 people in this room, you'd be overwhelmed. Yeah. Like, oh, I got 100 likes. You couldn't shake 100 people's hands. Like, people are so caught up in the numbers because it doesn't seem real, but you go outside and it puts everything into perspective. everything into perspective. And I mean, that's our job as artists, to cultivate the culture.
Yeah. What does the culture mean to you?
Man, it's community, it's the art, it's just what we represent. It's like, what are we standing on? It's the foundation of everything. And everybody is influencing the culture, but it's like, where do we want to push it? We're trying to, like, for me personally, like, we're trying to push the culture of authenticity. Be yourself. Like, that's really what it comes down to, is like, stand on what you know and what you want to be, and push the culture in that sense. Don't try to, let things impact what you're doing. And so, I mean, it really just is a culmination of everything that not only makes you, but makes the city what it is. That makes the community what it is. Makes your neighborhood, makes Linden Ave, makes the street what it is. And I mean, y'all highlighting the fits. That's culture.
Yeah.
What are people wearing? What are people listening to? What are people watching? It's everything, and even outside of just the creative aspect. What issues are people trying to, impact? Where our focus is at? And if everybody just plays their role and doesn't let ego affect that, man, we have a beautiful thing. And there's a lot of ego out here. There is so much ego, and it's crazy. But
ego entices me.
Yeah?
Or not like the concept of ego entices me. So, yeah, what does ego mean to you? Or like, as in, when you say that it's ego getting in the way of a lot of the growth that we could be making in culture, what do you mean by that?
I think that ego is mandatory for manifestation and speaking things into existence, because you have to be so confident in yourself that you think that you can control the world, control reality. But at the same time, if you let that ego consume you and you're not the one wielding the ego to do your will, and you're just letting it go crazy, that's why we see people acting Hollywood when, like, you're neighborhood famous, bro. Like, you go to the gas station and you get recognized, like, congratulations. But that don't mean that everybody gotta, oh my gosh, who's that? Like, that's stupid. That doesn't mean that you don't gotta pop out to networking nights. That don't mean that you can't be front row at a show because you don't wanna seem like a fan.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why people get stuck in this Seattle, whatever you call it. Like, just the cycle of an artist in Seattle is so small and so short that people are like, why are we not making it out? It's because your ego. That's what it is. And I think an ego is a tool to make things happen, but I also think it can be a detriment to the art. Because when the ego outweighs the talent and the ego outweighs the work, then what do you really have? I'm out of tea and I just keep sipping. I don't know why. We're gonna have to do a switch.
Yeah. On the concept of ego, I think one thing as an artist that you always have to, maybe you don't always have to account for it, but something that I've always thought you have to account for is criticism. Which, yeah, what's your experience with criticism?
Bro, honestly, I embrace criticism so much more than, like, compliments.
Really?
Which I feel like, I don't know, I've heard a lot of people say it, but, like, I find it hard to take compliments. Like, after shows, like, it's so dope to see the music impacting people, but also, like, that imposter syndrome in my head is like, but why do they care? Why do they actually, like, are they really rocking with it? And so, like, I'm just like, oh, like, thank you. And, like, I find it hard to find the words to, like, express how much it means to me, because I'm doubting how much it means to me, And so, like, for criticism, like, we have debriefs after every show. Some shows I'm like, yo, this was amazing. And then, my manager or my videographer or my DJ is like, oh, we could have done this better. And that helps me grow.
Yeah.
Because compliments and that positive energy are what affirm you in your journey, but the criticism and the constructive criticism is what helps you learn and progress. And so you need a balance of both of those, but like I'll always accept criticism. Like I'm not too big to know that I still got things to learn. I mean, I'm 22. I haven't lived that long.
Yeah.
Like there's people that have been doing this for longer than I've been alive. And so who am I to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. I know it all.
Yeah, I think that's a great balance of humility, but also, like you said, wielding your ego to go after what you want. That's important. So what originated the idea of criticism for me as an interviewer was when I was going on a lot of like your work. And a lot of the pages that promote you is like Dreamville related. And a lot of comments will be like, oh, it's just another J. Cole clone, or it's just like he's biting J. Cole's flow. So I want to know, like, one, what are your thoughts of that criticism? And two, does it hold any merit to you, or is,
Man, it's people on the internet talking, bro. Or hiding behind the screen. Like, nobody, I guarantee. I have a crazy story that's actually exact. So we were filming Circle Theory on the ferry. And there was like three kids that came up and to Nash while he was shooting. I was down below. It was that one shot from up above. And they're like, are y'all filming a music video? He was like, yeah. They're like, who's the artist? And he told them. And they're listening on the phone as they walk inside. They're walking inside, they're listening to it. And they didn't know my team was inside. So they were walking, my BTS photographer is sitting on one of the seats. And as they walk by, they're like, he's just a Walmart J. Cole. And she goes, you gotta listen to his other songs. You gotta listen to the whole project. And they're like, oh, okay. Because now they're like confronted with their own opinion. And they're like, dang, I really just said that. And somebody else heard it and it impacted them. And they came back and apologized. They're like, dang, I'm sorry. We listened to the other tracks and he was cool. But like, that's really all it is. It's other people projecting their own insecurities, people projecting. They want to have a reason that they're not pursuing what they want to and not seeing the result. Dang, my fault. Not seeing the results that they want to have. So they got to find something in somebody else to be like, but it's not that good. It's not all that. And I mean, yeah, the J. Cole stuff is like, bro, I'm a light-skinned dude who's rapping about life, dog. So I get that every time, and like, he's definitely an influence, and I definitely like use his music as, you know, a reference or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, you can never say I'm J. Cole because I'm rapping about my life and my experience.
Exactly.
So.
No, I wanna
cool.
touch more on fashion, right? Because we're fitted.
We're here.
We're here.
We
So
are
got
fitted.
fashion.
Y'all are fitted.
Yeah. Do you want to highlight your outfit that you're wearing today, or just talk about what fashion serves in your life, or fashion as the word? Or what does that spark up in your mind? Just take it wherever you want to go.
Wow. Like fashion. So I used to dress so terribly. It's insane. I just wear Adidas track pants every single day with some random sweatshirt that didn't mean anything because like that just wasn't part of my expression. Like I just didn't really care. But now with me, I see myself so much. I literally have a camera on me like probably like not 24/7, but like 18/7.
Yeah.
I have a camera on me and like we're even shooting a documentary. So like the amount that I watch myself back and I'm like, before when it just started, I was like, that doesn't feel like me. Like I feel like all this energy. I feel cool inside. I feel like I got this swag about me, but then I look at myself and it didn't represent. It wasn't matching. And so like, it just came down to me experimenting and I was so just worried about like, are people gonna think this is cool? And now it's like, I'll wake up, walk into the closet and just be like, all right, what are we wearing today? What am I drawn to? And put it together. And I'm not just picking willy-nilly because, I mean, that's not how you get a fit off. But I think just picking the things that feel like me and wearing it. And then finding brands that like inspire me. Like Jonah, I manifested this Jonah thing so hard, it's crazy. I tell Corbin all the time, I saw their brand first. They were doing a bunch of hats, and I saw their brand, and I was like, dang, they're so dope. And they had like this Frank Ocean tee that they made, and I was like, wow, like this is fire. And I just want to rock the clothes first and foremost. But then secondly, it's Black owned. So I'm like, dang, not only am I drawn to them creatively, but also they're part of my community.
Yeah.
And so there was on the block, they run like a vintage kind of market, flea market type thing, but also like they do live music, and it's like a whole community event in Cap Hill. And I was actually out at the festival that I just played last year. I was there during the pop-up, and it was the one time that Jonah was gonna be there. So I literally called the homies. They were at the thing. I said, hey, I need you to go to this. I need you to go to this booth. This is a brand that's crazy. They got some shorts that I want. All you gotta do is buy the shorts. Just buy the shorts. That's it. And they like ended up actually like talking to them and like, you know, building their own relationship. But I got the shorts. I was like, yup. Yeah. Step one, I got the clothes that I like. And then I just continually, I post about them. I wear them all the time. I was like, dang, this is something that I truly believe in. This is a project that I truly believe in. So whatever I can do to contribute, like, that's it. That's all I want to do. I don't need to have my name on nothing. I don't need to have my face. I don't need to be a face of the brand. You ain't got to, you know, send me clothes. But, like, you want some music for some content? Say less. I'll do that off the love. And, I mean, when I approached it that way, like, who's going to say no to that? Like, there's literally no risk on anybody's end. And so I'm super thankful that Corbin allowed me to just pop up to the studio. And then for my headliner, I modeled for them first because I was like, oh, that'd be dope to just put me in an outfit and take pictures. I was really trying to get into modeling at that point and being in front of the camera, like a still camera more. But then we ended up collabing on a Carhartt jacket for my first headliner. I made like a whole like content piece about it and like an interview style. And from that point on, it was a genuine connection because we built it outside of like transactional, you know, relationship. We built it just off the love. And so now that's the homie. I could call him.
Yeah.
And sometimes he picks up. Corbin, you should pick up your phone more often. But, you know, yeah, I mean, and that's what fashion is to me. It's a reflection of who you are inside and a reflection of culture, a reflection of community, where you're from.
Yeah.
And, I mean, yeah. I feel like I'm in a spot where I'm finally feeling like not only does the music match who I am, but the image matches who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, y'all probably been throwing fists for mad long, so I'm new to the game, but yeah, and like people like y'all inspire me.
Yeah.
And seeing other people.
I mean, like our whole team here, even behind the cameras, they're like way more into fashion than I am. I just like randomly joined Fitted on a whim. It was more of like the creative aspects that brought me into it.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that was really appealing about fashion, like you said, was it's so accessible for everyone. Like you just watch your closet and be like, damn, what am I feeling today?
Yeah.
And it's just everyone has clothes, and everyone has that tool of creating and being an artist every single day. And so like there'll be days these days where I'm throwing on like 3 or 4 fits a day because my mood is changing. Yeah. It's just like I'll wake up and I'm like, damn, I'm really feeling this, and then I'll have lunch and I'll be like, nah, I'm feeling this completely different. And it's just that whole like world that it opened up to me thanks to like all these people here and just the club in general. It's cool because again, like living as an artist, it's a whole concept. It's just like every decision that you make and every feel and it's all intuitive.
Where's 2-0, 2-85, in the 45, 2-0, 27 club, trying to stay alive.
I actually found, I was going through your Twitter. And so I was just going through all the tweets.
Not the Twitter.
And so
I don't even have that many tweets, and some of them are crazy.
No, that's what I like. I feel like you use Twitter really intentionally because you don't tweet that often.
Not
And
at all.
Twitter is interesting because you could just like throw up any thought that sounds interesting. Because I use Twitter a
Yeah.
lot. And so I just wanted to read some of these out loud. And
This is crazy.
a lot of these are 2.5 to 3 years old. So I want to know what your thoughts are on them now.
Oh my gosh.
And
I don't even know.
are these ideas timeless? Is
Okay.
my question. So did they withstand the test of time?
Heard you.
So we'll start out with October 18th, 2021. The more my life steers towards normalcy, the more I start to panic because the normal life is not what I signed up for.
Facts.
Facts?
Bro. Like the more I feel like, I think it's complacency is what I, like the idea that I was trying to get at. And like being in my comfort zone, that's scary, dog.
Yeah.
That's scary to like we're talking about like a good conversation, right? Like time flies by.
Mm-hmm.
The thought of being so complacent and so comfortable that a year goes by and I'm in that same spot is crazy. Like that's such a waste of time. And you never know if like, I don't know, that year could be your last and what did you do? Like that's terrifying. Dang, shout out to me, I was cooking.
No, yeah, that's how I do when I read my own tweets, bro. Sometimes I just be scrolling through my own Twitter. I'm like, that guy's cooking.
Yeah,
This one I feel like is self-explanatory, but I'll say it anyways. October 25th, 2021, all I want to do is make music. Is that true, or is there other artistic endeavors?
There's for sure other artistic endeavors, but I think music is at the base of it. So it's like, I'll give it like 50-50.
What other branches are you exploring?
Clothing, for sure. Like, yeah. I think the production of clothing, too, is so cool. And watching other people, because like we've been making a lot of the samples and stuff, and we just like dropping it off to some of like the creator homies and being like, yo, wear this. And seeing other people rock something that you made, because like music is cool because, you know, you can experience it anywhere. Like you can always just pull up Spotify and put it on, but like seeing something tangible, like this was a sketch on a piece of paper and now I'm holding it in my hand.
Yeah.
Now that person's wearing it on their head, or they're wearing, you know, the sweatshirt or the hoodie or like whatever it is, you know, it's crazy. So yeah, shout out clothes.
Yeah. It's just like the ultimate creation that you can have.
Right. So wild.
November 11th, 2021, when I listen back to my art, it reassures me that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
True?
Mm-hmm.
What is that connection like when you listen to a lot of your old stuff? Like I'm talking about the stuff that you mentioned before Loose Change.
Yeah. I mean, I tell this to all my artist homies too. But recency bias is such a real thing, like especially as an artist. It's like the newest thing that you made is going to be your favorite thing.
Yeah.
Because you just made it and you were like, this idea is fire, and then you did it and it was fire.
Yeah.
But like, I always try to tell them to respect the moment that you were in, because you felt like that. That means a ton of other people have that exact shared same experience, and they will connect with that. Whether or not you feel like that person right now, you felt like that person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's definitely hard as an artist in any sense to like look at when you weren't as experienced, or when you felt like, dang, I wasn't as good back then compared to how I am now, and like still find the joy and like the love for it. But it's like, you think back like, oh, I was a year into doing this and this is what I came up with. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, but I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it was a stepping stone to get to where I am now. And without it, I wouldn't be here, so.
And I think that's an issue that a lot of times I fall into too, is when you're growing so much and at a rapid pace, you tend to look back at the stuff that you produced like 6 months ago, and you're like, oh, I don't associate with that person because that's like 6 months of growth behind me. But it's like, that person, sure, they didn't know as much or they didn't feel as much, but they also felt a lot. And like, that was literally you. Like,
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of times people don't really resonate with the stuff that they've done in the past.
Yeah.
And it's kind of odd because that is you. And there is no separation between that version of you and the present version of you. It's just this made up concept called time.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
Wow, that's a crazy way to think about it.
Yeah. And so lastly, this is the one that piqued my curiosity the most. So December 22nd, 2021, everybody got ideas. It really comes down to who can execute and turn those ideas into reality.
Mm-hmm.
What's your process of why tweet that?
Because I say this in some of my newer tracks and stuff that I've been creating, but one line from a song is that, dang, I'm about to butcher this, but the idea is like, some people have big dreams and other people have floor plans. And so like a dream is one thing, but when you are focused on building a foundation, that's the execution. Like really planning out steps to how to make it happen, because anybody can sit in their room. Like the amount of people that sit in their basement like, we're the funniest people on earth. We should make a podcast. Like, you know what I'm saying? We should make a YouTube channel. There's millions of those, but that's why only 1% of people, less than that, you see, actually make it, because they were executing and they were actually putting their words into action.
Before we do head off, just a little gift from the Fitted team.
No way.
We got a little Buju Banton vinyl.
Whoa.
I'll be honest, I don't know too much, but this is for you.
Thanks.
And a little thank
Gift.
you. Yeah, again, I think
Wow.
you strike me as just an amazing artist and like a full-on creative. So obviously you don't need to hear it from me, but just keep going.
I
keep doing
appreciate
you.
that.
And
But I do need to hear it from you, which is the crazy part. Like I need, like, all of that is energy. Yeah. All of that is energy.
that's why I'm here, is just give you the energy back. So keep doing you, keep creating, and just keep on inspiring us. Like, you're the reason we're here today. So yeah, with that, thank you all for being here, and yeah.